when you walk by, I hit you with sexy eyes. You look through me as if I wasn't right. Oh no, you didn't just walk on through. It's time to break it down so you know I'm after you. When I come creeping up behind you, that's me you're feeling, and there's nothing you can do when I come creeping all around you. You try to resist my advance, but you ain't got a chance when I come creeping. You know I love the way you try to sneak away when I come creeping up from deep within the crowd. Hands locked in.
Greetings all. Before I get into what this vlog is going to be about, I'm going to give you guys a warning now. This is more than likely going to be a very long vlog. If it gets too long, I'll break it into 2 parts. But be prepared either for a 2-part vlog or a long vlog. What we're getting into today, and what I'm going to be filming today, is basically a how-to on carving foam board insulation. Last vlog I mentioned I was going to do some new wall panels, and I showed you the foam insulation and stuff, that the full sheets, and then after I got done cut my blanks. Blank is a term meaning when you got your material cut down to size and shape, but you haven't done any work to it. It's just a blank sheet, you know, so blanks. Now I wanted to kind of go over, there's various forms of foam carving that you'll find out on YouTube. Some of it's done with a Dremel, which is the form I use. There's also popcorning, which is where you use a penknife to pick at the foam to, you know, break off little bits and pieces. That is probably the hardest and most labor-intensive style of foam carving that you can do, at least that I know of. The third type is using the hot wire foam cutters and what have you, like Tara over at oh god, what's her handle? I want to call it Scary Lady. I think it's Scary Lady or Spooky Lady or something like that, but Tara does. And believe me, she with that foam, hot wire foam cutter, she does some beautiful work. I'm still in love with that damn hellhound she made. God, that thing's beautiful. But anyway, the foam carving I do is done with a Dremel. And I've gotten started with my foam carving just a little over a year ago. You can, with the method I'm doing, you can do all sorts of stuff. It works great for signs. In fact, my first project was entrance and exit signs. I also made up a larger, more complicated sign this last summer that listed the rules for my haunt. Then the third project I did using my method was the carved foam board panels for my haunt. And that project was, while it was very labor intensive, was a lot simpler than what I'm working on now. I'm working on carving some foam board panels for my haunt again, but the pattern I'm doing is a lot harder, more complicated, and very much labor intensive. In fact, let me show you here. I've gotten one panel done here, and I'm not sure if the camera's focusing right, so we'll go up real close. I've seen a lot of this different style, usually done in reverse. And what I mean by reverse is it's usually full sheets of plaster, and then they cut out like a V-notch or a little circle or a square, and you can see the brick behind it. I'm doing just the opposite. I want to see all the brick. I want the brickwork, you know, with just the little splotches of plaster on it. I want the brick to be the main key, not the plaster. So these are going to be a lot more labor intensive. The panels, when completed and painted, will be going in my water feature room, you know, what I lovingly call the cesspit room. That's the one that has, if you've watched the walkthrough on my haunts, that's the black light room with the big red dog in it and the 2 ponds. Okay, now before we get started, let me cover a couple of things here. My first signs I did with carved foam board were the exit and enter sign. With those, I basically, using a ruler and a lot of freehand, just kind of sketched out on the pieces of foam what I wanted. You took my Dremel, cut it out. With the foam board panels I did last winter, I basically cut my blanks out like I did for this, same size, same shape, all that. Laying everything out, you know, sketching the pattern out if I knew what to cut and where. I used templates, you know, all the designs, the damage areas and whatever, I cut out templates. And then just sketch those onto the board, cut them out. With the big sign I did with all the rules from a haunt on it, that was a combination of a stencil for the lettering, ruler, you know, to do the grout lines, and then some freehand on it. With these walls, I want things to look a little more random on them. So I'm going to do a combination of freehand and sketching. I'm not going to use any templates. The walls I did last winter, that was the one thing I did not think about when I made them. When I put all the damage on them, all the damage on each panel is in the exact same spot as the next panel. So it's not random damage, you know, and they're all identical. This one I want to have a lot of variance in. So what I'm going to be doing is, to form the bricks, I'll be sketching out all the grout lines with 2 rulers. I got a regular 12-inch ruler and a yardstick, which I'll be using to lay out the grout lines. To do the plaster work, instead of using stencils, which I could do and it would make things look a lot easier, I want things more random. You know, so I'll be getting different shapes of plaster with each panel, and the plaster will be in different locations on it. I'll be using a Sharpie just to kind of freehand the plaster onto the board before I do the grout lines. So, you know, that's what we're at now. Now this vlog I'm going to break into several different sections as well. The section we're getting ready to start right now is going to be the layout phase. The next phase after the layout is done will be the carving phase. And then the third section on this vlog will be the detail work. And with each section I'll kind of go over the tools I'm using and how it's done, and then show you either all of it or a bit of that process. And by the time we get done with the end of this vlog, this will be a carved panel to match the original. Well, not match the original, but to, you know, be the same style. So, anyway, let's get going. Our first step, and we're going to set the rulers and the pencils to the side, and we're going to take up our Sharpie, is to lay out the plaster on the board. Now, I decided when we were figuring all this out, or I should say when I was designing all this out, you know, what we wanted prominent. Did we want the plaster more prominent than the brick, which would mean most of the sheet would be plaster and there'd only be a couple of little areas with the brick? Or did we want the brick prominent with only a couple little areas of plaster stuck to it? And we chose the latter, to go with the brick. After that, we decided we needed to decide how many sections of plaster. Originally on that first panel I showed you, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There were 7 different sections of plaster, and after looking at it, it just looked like too much plaster. So we decided to cut it down. That panel has 4. Now, if I decide to use, you know, sketch out small sections of plaster, I figured I wouldn't go over 5, you know, down the whole panel. If I'm doing all large, I wouldn't do more than 3 on the panel. If I'm going to do a mix, I'm going to do 4. You know, that was for me, for my liking. You know, what you would choose to do, it would be up to you. You know, it depends on what pattern you want to do. You don't have to do the brick and plaster, or you don't have to do the wallpaper and the wainscoting like on the other one, other walls I guess. But you know, it all depends. You know, it takes a little while to kind of plan out. You got to kind of play with it. And I know that first panel I did, I spent maybe 45 minutes messing around with that sheet before I actually got to the point where I was actually laying out the pattern I wanted, because I wasn't sure what the heck I wanted. And thank you to my wife, if she ever watches this, for the help. You've been kind of coaching me on these, you know, with design ideas. Anyway, enough rambling. Let's get to the layout phase here. We're going to start by doing some plaster work. And I think on this one, I'm going to do a couple of small blurps of plaster work up on top to kind of break it up. One nice thing I do find is with adding the plaster, it does cut down on carving, because you're not really going to be carving out the plaster, you're going to be carving out the grout lines and the brick. So the more plaster you have on it, the less carving you have to do. You know, that's one way of speeding it up, and that's probably one reason why a lot of people go with a full plaster wall with just a couple of sections of, you know, brick showing through. It's a lot less work. And I know my trademark cigars are in the way. So, give me a second, I'll get them moved out of the way. Oh, and word of warning, if any of you guys are smokers like I am, and you like to smoke while you're working on your Halloween projects, when doing foam board panels, be extremely careful with your smoking. Because if you have any ashes or coals fall off your cancer stick and hit the foam, it will melt a hole in the foam. So be real careful with that. And of course, as soon as I say that, I grab the lighter and light up. Makes a hell of a lot of sense, doesn't it, folks? Anyway. Okay. We've got 3 splotches on here now. And I think I'm going to add kind of a narrow one. Another one down here. Now, a lot of these plaster spatches I'm adding on here. What did I do with my cap? Oh, it's on the end of the pen. No wonder I can find it. Now, I realize these splotches I put on here don't look too much like plastic. They just look like blobs or smoothed edge. There's a way of fixing that in the detail area right now, which makes things a lot easier. And I can also deal with it once I get into the carving phase as well. Right now, the blobs I've put on here just basically tell me where the plaster is going and the basic design of the plaster that I want. Now that the plaster's on here, I've got to start laying out my grout work on here to form the bricks. And what I ended up doing, grab it here, is I messed around on that first panel drawing out different bricks and stuff. I took and wrote down measurements for the brick. That way from sheet to sheet, all I have to do is look at this, measure everything out with my measurements I have on here. And then the brick and the grout line should match from panel to panel. So when I put the panel side to side, everything kind of lines up and it looks like a wall instead of individual panels. So the first grout lines we're going to draw right now are going to be the horizontal grout lines. And what I'm going to be doing is using my 12-inch ruler. And instead of the Sharpie, I'm going to switch over to pencil. Now I decided when I did this, I wanted my brick 3 inches wide with a 1/4 inch grout line. So what we're going to do here is I'll go to, butt the ruler up to the outside edge here. I'll go to 3 inches, put a slash, measure out 1/4 inch, do another slash. And we'll just proceed to do this down both this side of the board and this side of the board. Then we'll use our yardstick to connect the dots, and that will get us our lines for our horizontal. So I'm going to get to working on that right now, and I'll let you guys watch a little bit. Be a little kind of getting lonely out here. We got our first little spot taken care of here, and I don't know how well it really showed up on camera. I'll give you a closer look at once I get done with this, maybe. We'll have to see. All right, that's basically the process to get the horizontal grout lines. Basically, I just there and just keep sliding the board down, doing 3 inches, and 1/4 inch, 3 inches and 1/4 inch, 3 inches and 1/4 inch, you know, all the way down the panel, and then coming back with my yardstick to sketch it in. Now let me get the next set done here, and I'll show you the next phase. Now, while you're sketching this out, if you have to make a a mistake, like I just did here drawing this line, my pencil wandered from the ruler and I went out into where the brick is going to be. You don't need to worry about it because the damage is only, as long as the damage is only on the surface, because you are going to be routering the bricks out with your Dremel and stuff, so that mistake will disappear. You know, they'll never see it. The only one who'll know it was ever there will be you, so you don't need to worry about that. Now, if you do create some damage on the board later on that goes fairly deep into the foam and will be seen after you get done with your dremeling and detail work on it. There are a couple different ways that you can fix that so it won't be seen, and I'll cover that down the road if we get to that point.
degrees outside today, and it's supposed to be twice as cold tomorrow. How cold is it going to be? 105.7 Bob FM.
Now, once I just finished my horizontal grout lines. You should have, or I should have, every 3 inches, and I do, lines all the way down the board. That will give me my grout lines here between this line and this line. That 1/4 inch gap there will be my grout line. Now, to form the bricks themselves, I've got the width set right. Now I need to start drawing the horizontal lines on the board. And these take a little bit more time to do. Let's get started. I'm going to refer back to my notes I took. And they say bricks 3 foot wide by 4.5 inches long. Grout lines are 1/4 inch, which we just did our horizontal ones. And when you're laying brick, you stagger step them. And to get that effect, my first brick up here in this corner needs to be 2 1/4 inches wide. Half of what the full size is. Oh, full size is 4.5, so a half brick would be 2 1/4. So what I am going to do, using my small ruler, is I'm going to mark out 2 1/4 inches. So it's 1, 2, and then I'm going to add 1/4 of an inch for my full brick. And then I'll come over here next to it and go out 4.5 inches. 4.5, and add 1/4 inch space for the grout line. And I'll just keep doing that all the way across the board. And once I get to the other side, that should leave me with a 2.5 inch brick. Or 2 1/4, excuse me. And it's leaving me with a right size brick. Okie dokie. Next thing I need to do is I need to repeat these dash lines further down on the sheet. So I have something to put my yardstick on for drawing the grout line. On this one here. Okay, so I'm just going to simply repeat the process I did up there. That way everything lines up. I started on this side of the board, so I'm going to up there. So I'm going to start on this side of the board down here. Okay, now I got those lines marked. I am going take my yardstick and just match up my dots, just like I did on the horizontal lines, with one exception. On the horizontal, I went all the way across the board. With doing these vertical lines, bricks are not stacked lines, they're stagger steps. So I need to do it every other gap. Now that we've got the first set of grout lines going vertically, every other line across I'm going to come back, I'm going to repeat the same process doing the other lines, staggering them so they don't match up with the original set that I did. And by the time I'm done, that should give us our brick pattern.